All right, so here we are in a long overdue Nightaxians update, and I had mentioned in a very brief video a couple weeks ago that we had a little announcement to make. So I have gone ahead and brought in Ken, who you can see here on the screen, and I'm super excited to make that announcement, and that is that we are moving ahead with the Nelson Night Photography Workshop, and I did this in October of 2021 with Troy Paiva, and we had an absolute blast at this location. And this time around, I'm happy to announce that Mr. Ken Lee is going to be my co-conspirator on this workshop happening on May 4th, 5th, and 6th in Nelson Ghost Town, Nevada, or Nevada. If you've not heard of this place before, it's basically it's a quote unquote ghost town. There's somebody that a family owns it, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Ken, but it was originally a gold mine, and
correct.
Somebody came in and purchased the remnants of the gold mine and all the buildings and structures that were all connected to it, and then started building their own stuff to make it look sort of interesting and ghosty, and then it kind of became a roadside attraction.
Yeah, it is definitely a roadside attraction of sorts, and the person just kept acquiring, I mean, just about everything that he thought looked really cool, and thankfully for us, he has a really great aesthetic. So it really does look like this, kind of old Western ghost town, but then it has all these incredible vehicles, trucks, buses, even a couple of airplanes and equipment, and I can't remember what else. I mean, it's utterly fantastic.
It's got
and
too
I think
much,
it's
really
it's too much. It's actually sort of overwhelming, but I can't help but think that it's a light painter's paradise.
Yeah, it totally is. You've spent more time in there than I have, I think, and even you just said to me a day or two ago, you still have so much to shoot in there. It's not on the way to anywhere, which makes it a really interesting location in that there's not a lot of traffic that goes by there. It's on both sides of the road. As far as the workshop goes, it's going to be 3 nights of light painting, night photography under moonlit conditions. Yeah, it's totally great. So you're really going to get immersed into it. You always have that first night in a workshop where you're overwhelmed, like, what am I going to shoot? And then the second night, you're kind of starting to get your groove. And then on night 3, you're like, these are the things I'm going to shoot, or I'm going to go back and retry this thing that I flaked out on the first night, But having access with permission is always a nice thing because you don't have to worry about looking over your shoulder for everything.
No, it's very, very safe there, and it's really well protected by everything.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I mean, 3 nights is really immersive, and it gives you also the opportunity, if for some reason you were dissatisfied with how you light painted something or how you photographed something the first time, you can go back and you still have 2 more nights to take a crack at it. So
yeah, that's one of the benefits of an event like that, is because I feel like 2 nights is not enough if you're traveling from somewheres, to just kind of decompress and get involved. 2 nights you're in and out, it almost feels a little bit too fast. 4 nights is usually a little bit too much for people at one location. 4 nights in a row, perhaps. Sometimes it's nice to get those couple nights in, the 3 nights, and then you go back and review, and then you go back to on another date at some point to check it out. But I'm excited that you're joining me for this, because it really is just one of these locations that is rare, accessible, safe, tons of material. You listed a bunch of stuff, and I know you didn't even scratch the surface with the things that you mentioned. Quiet area. It's technically in the town of Searchlight, right? Searchlight, Nevada.
I believe they counted as that.
Yeah. It's about 5 miles away from the Colorado. I don't know.
I guess Colorado
River. Yeah. And that's interesting too, because they were telling me the last time I was there, they were hosting a military training. Did I tell you about that?
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar.
I think they were dropping Navy SEALs via airplanes into the Colorado River, and then they were going to hike the 5 miles up to the town and then do some sort of exercise, because the town sort of gives you that, feel of an abandoned or somewhat demolished area. So, but that said, we have some pictures that we were going to talk about from that location, because even if you didn't want to necessarily go to that workshop, but you might get some ideas on how to shoot some cool stuff, because we mentioned cars, airplanes, buildings, buses, monster trucks. There's I mean, the guy that is owning the place, he's chop shopping school buses, basically, right?
Yeah, he's putting school buses on top of military trucks and turning them into these Mad Max type vehicles. So there's at least 2 of those.
Yeah, it's totally weird, and you can get some great shots of them because you can get right up to them. I think you need a ladder to get into those buses too, which is kind of funny. So speaking of giant chop-shopped buses, here's a shot that you took there. When did you take this? This is a couple years old, right?
I believe that's 2019, and this is one of those Mad Max type vehicles that I was talking about. Probably could fit into either Mad Max, actually. So the new one or the old one.
Yep.
But yeah, he actually created this. This is one of the ones that he created out of a military truck, and then he put a school bus on top, and then kind of did his own thing as well. And it's really striking, and you're not going to be able to photograph this. Well, pretty much anywhere, I suppose.
Yeah, and he actually drives this, he told me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Both of them operate.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And they're technically street legal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty strange. So this one is I think this is the one of 2 planes they have on. This is the one that's basically staged to be sticking out of the ground. And around the corner from there, there's, is it an old Coast Guard plane? Just like the fuselage?
There is a Navy trainer, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So this is something that kind of pops up on the Facebook forum sometimes. Like, where was I? Where did you see this? It's completely staged, but it's really cool. And you can see in the background the terrain there. The terrain is super interesting. It almost looks like this, I don't know, molded white cement. So when the moonlight hits it, especially from an angle, it's really textured and really awesome. And this was a ton of fun to light paint, being able to light paint plane parts, without having to hop fences or find weird places, right? Because we've done a little bit of that too over the years. So here's your barn shot. And if I had to say that there was a favorite out of what you have shot, this is one of mine, definitely.
Oh, thank you. This was definitely a favorite of mine too, and it was a lot of fun to light paint, because as you can tell, I've hardly light painted the exterior at all, except for the sign. So I basically walked inside and blasted away with a light, walking upstairs and downstairs. So lots of fun.
What's neat about this is you also caught it looks like maybe earlier in the night. So the moon, you can kind of see, I'm looking over here because it's on my screen. You can kind of see in the upper right-hand corner, a little bit of moonbeam coming down, which also means that you were able to really make that lighting look a lot brighter, because you didn't have moonlight hitting the side of the building that way, or the front of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So this barn, you and I have been in it at different times as we've shot. And it's like 2 or 3 stories tall. It looks rickety, but they built it, so it's fairly new. And there's a ton of cool stuff in there.
It's really good and solid, and there's an old Ben Franklin stove, and several all sorts of furniture and all sorts of cool things. So actually, it's a really great place for light painting if you want to get indoors for a little bit, or if you want to light paint something else and stretch those abilities of yours.
Yeah, this location is great because you have a lot of exteriors, but you have a lot of interiors. And this building in particular is a ton of fun because, like you mentioned, there's the stove. There's also like a kind of quasi living room with like an old style tube TV and like nasty shag carpeting. And then just like you have the light coming out in your shot from the inside, at the right time, the moon comes through those same slats and you get this great,
That's right,
like weird moonlight coming into the building, and there's that weird creepy doll at the bottom of the stairs. I'll put a picture of that creepy doll. I told a bunch of people at the last workshop where to find it, and they couldn't find it, but I think they were too afraid to look for it. That's just my opinion. So here's a case for a fisheye, because fisheyes are a ton of fun if you've got, and you can chime in on this, things that are close up that you can exaggerate, and they work great with cars, fenders, anything with like weird curves. And this bus, I spent a while trying to figure out how to shoot this bus with my 15 to 30, and then I was like, I really haven't used my fisheye too much, so I got the fisheye out, and I had an absolute blast with this one. And we had some weird clouds that night and everything. Did you get to shoot this bus at any point during any of your visits?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to put that on my list. But, I just wanted to say, kids, that any night is a good night for a fisheye. Especially at this place. This place is fantastic for fisheye because there's a lot of really great detail shots that you can do with fisheye too. Jamming things right up on a grill or exaggerating the curvature of the horizon, like Tim does with that photo.
People get really tied up with the idea of, I've got to do this wide angle shot and include 3 or 4 different ground pieces in it. But with that fisheye, you can really micromanage like one thing for a while and get a lot of different shots, especially with vehicles like this bus and interiors of vehicles. That's a lot of fun too. So we had a conversation about fisheyes in one of our episodes. So definitely recommend you check that out, because if you don't have a fisheye and you want to come to this event, I would definitely recommend you bring one. We'll let you in without one, but think about bringing one. This shot with the car is a lot of fun. Looks like you did a couple different lighting angles on this. Can you tell me about it?
Absolutely. I actually chose to light this from 2 different angles for the grill. And that grill, by the way, is really interesting because what you have is a 1940s Cadillac Fleetwood, but it has a Buick bumper attached to it. So it's very unusual. But anyway, I hit that from more or less 2 different sides, not including the ground. And then of course, from multiple angles, I lit the interior with red, with the red color.
Yeah, the red is really striking. That's a fun building too, because it's got a whole side open to it, besides just that front. So you can do a lot of creative lighting, and there's obviously a window in that shot too. So you got a lot of angles.
There's a lot of angles to do, and there's quite a lot inside the building as well, not just the Cadillac Fleetwood, but honestly, you could probably spend half the night just photographing this one building and car.
Oh yeah, I think we've all gotten several shots out of this particular one. I think I might have one coming up in this presentation that we'll talk about. It might actually be the next one. I think I arranged it like that to show. But yeah, that's a fun shot. Was there any explanation as to why it had the bumper that it had? Or it's just
no, I don't know the reason for that.
Okay. One of life's greatest mysteries that may never be solved, but we can document it. Back to your point about being able to spend a lot of time in that one space. Here's the back end of the same car. So now maybe in your mind, you're mentally building, as you watch this video, like what the interior or at least what this car looks like in its space. And I shot this at the Troy Paiva event we had in October of last year. It was the last shot of the night. And if you look real close, you can see in front of the car, there's some streaky red lights going by. That was one of the attendees leaving for the night. But I saw that car getting ready to go by, and I waited to hold the shot until it came by. But that car is, if I recall, the paint job on it is almost like it looks like a matte green now, right? It's like a limey.
It's a very matte green, and it's not perfect, which is of course wonderful for night photography, because if you're illuminating it, you get a little bit of patina. Yeah,
there's so much just stuff on it, and those cars with those curves at the right angles, you can really bring those curves out, and so that's a blast. I think about this garage, and I know it's something that everybody has shot before, but there's so many opportunities in that garage. I was surprised that at the last event, people didn't spend more time there, but then I actually heard from people after the fact that regretted not having spent more time there. I thought it was going to
There's really a lot of, I'm sorry. There's a lot of different angles that you can photograph with this, and it doesn't just have to be the straight on photo.
I thought it was going to be tied up the whole night, to be honest with you, but it wasn't. So I kind of snuck in and got something. This one here with the water tank and the star trails is awesome. How long did you do the star trails for on this one?
It looks like it's about 20 minutes, but I don't remember. I'd have to look back in my notes. 25 minutes probably.
Yeah.
And this one is light painted from so many different angles. It'd be challenging to describe, but this is probably at least 7 different angles of light painting, and from basic locations for light painting, and I really think this is one of the iconic shots of Nelson. Also, I think, or I shouldn't say iconic shot, but iconic subject matters of Nelson. I really love this a lot.
It's great. I've seen, and I'm sure you have, a lot of people take a composition featuring these things in it, but not in this way, which is another fun part about shooting with a group, in that everybody's shooting the same stuff. No one's getting the same picture. That's fun.
No, it's exciting to see what people come up with, and especially like when we're going to have 10 people there, and they're going to, put their own stamp on things and their own personality. And it's going to be really exciting to see what people do. Yeah.
We've been in there enough to know that 10 people is the comfortable limit. Anybody who's come to any of my Cape Cod workshops knows that over the last couple of years, I've been making the groups smaller and smaller and smaller. And then maybe just offering extra sessions because, when you do a lot of photography workshops, you run into a lot of people that attend a lot of photography workshops. And I always like to ask them, what's your biggest concern when you go to a workshop, or what would you tell someone they needed to change? And I frequently hear from, I don't want to say workshop groupies. I don't mean to disparage. I think I wish I could be a workshop groupie on the attending side. They always say too many people. There's too many people trying to jam themselves into these places. Yeah.
Make those groups smaller.
And we had someone come to the Nelson workshop who'd been in that area before with another group. And they're like, it was just, he says he spent the whole time in like a little corner that nobody was at. He couldn't get out of that corner because everything was occupied. So that's why we limit it to 10, and it can support it very easily. But that's the hard limit on this is 10 people.
Yeah. Nelson could support definitely more than 10 for sure. But I think this really gives people free range. The whole evening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This picture, by the way, you said something that I didn't know. You said you probably did 7 different lighting setups, perhaps, on that. And then, of course, you got the star trails. So my assumption is that this is a composite where you maybe did different lighting in each shot and then blended later, or did you try to do all the lighting within 1 or 2 shots?
No, I tried to do it within 1 shot.
Wow.
So it was definitely possible. I think 2 to 3 minutes each exposure. It's probably 3-minute exposures, 7 times or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And no, I tried to do it all at once. There's no reason why you can't. So why not? So a lot of time with star trails, I'll do the light painting in the very beginning, and then I might wait until the very last frame and do another one, and then choose whichever one is better, the front one or the back one, and go with that.
And we're gonna have some classroom time within this workshop built in during the days, and we're gonna do a bunch of stuff, mostly devoted to this particular style of night photography. And I know you're gonna do something talking about how you do the star trailing and the compositing and so on. I'm looking forward to that. Everybody's got their own style. You can ask 15 people how they do what they do. And you're going to get 15 different answers. That's always fun because I always learn something when I hear other people talk. I learned so much from Troy Paiva. You kind of get to a point where
he's
you're
amazing.
kind of like, whoa, do I have anything left to figure out? And then he just blows you out of the water with some of this stuff. So it's definitely worth it. And it's nice to go in a situation and be open to hearing new stuff. This one here was my favorite from that trip. This was the first time I had gone there with you. And one thing that I really was trying to force myself to do, which I recommend that anybody does, is not shoot at eye level. I wanted to just try to find either really high shots or really low shots.
It's actually a really great exercise to have, is to try and shoot anywhere but eye level, and try and offer different perspectives, and
that was my
separate yourself from the pack.
That was my night, that particular night, because you walk into a location, and maybe if you've researched a place before, you know what other people have done. You haven't done it, so if you do it, it's new to you, but it's nice to walk away with something really fresh. And at this location, there's props. I don't know how else to say it, but like the gas cans. If you look closely at the gas can picture, you can see a gas nozzle from a gas pump sitting on top there. And you can see the hose that it was attached to on the ground. And I rearranged all that to try to like make that part of the composition. That's what these workshops really lend themselves to, these locations, is you being able to change the scene. I love my Cape Cod stuff. I can't move a lighthouse. I can't change where the sands on the beach are. Occasionally I'll drag a lifeguard chair around, but you get a lot of flexibility in locations like this with the gas cans and the hoses and, crazy amount of stuff. And if you're local, if you live in that general area or you're going to drive to the workshop, you can always bring props. We know a couple of people who travel around with props. Mannequin heads, dolls,
we do.
Anything that just adds the extra creep factor. So that's a ton of fun. But these are the types of conditions you could expect. Nice, vibrant moonlight, clear skies. You can do the star trailing and, long exposure, low ISO stuff, letting time do all the heavy lifting, letting the stars bake in, giving yourself enough time to do that light painting.
Not to be overlooked, it's also in a gorgeous canyon with a lot of mountains bracketing each side. So you're going to get beautiful mountains in
they feel like they're really
photos.
close too. Like you feel like you're nestled in this little mountainous mini valley. It's very quiet.
Yeah, it's beautifully quiet. It's you're definitely in a canyon, but it's not a claustrophobic sort of canyon. It's still very open, but those mountains are
they're not
very far away.
Occasionally you might see a coyote or something run by. We've had that before.
So this one I photographed a little while back, and my intention was to do a night photography Christmas card, and I've never used it for that, so here it is.
No, you mean to say no one's seen it before, or have you posted this one?
I've shared it on social media, but I never printed a Christmas card.
I got you. Well, if you're watching this and it's before Christmas, Merry Christmas from Mr. Ken Lee, as seen in Nelson. Tell us about the church. There's a very brief history on this church because it wasn't there the first time we visited.
No, the church is relatively new. It's been there. I can't remember now. It's 2-3 years or whatever it is. But Nelson was getting a lot of people asking to be married there, so they built this church. And so it's a little bit different architecturally from some of the other things there, but it's no less cool to photograph. So also I might add that I play keyboards, I play piano, so I had to include the piano in there, and that piano's, it's still there. It's a little bit more beat up than it was before, but we'll just say it has more patina.
That is the word of the night because that applies to just about everything there. So back to the earlier point about everybody shooting the same things and getting something different. Here's my shot of the church. I had another one where there's a car on the other side of the church that was a nice foreground near those cactus. Stay clear. And then the church was in the back. I found that really the only way to light this church was with the warmer lighting. It just looked better than trying to do colors, but that was just my opinion on it. And this is a star trail of about 21 minutes at f8, and I'm using a 15-30. Nice wide angle lens. This is definitely a wide angle or fisheye kind of experience. Not anything, zoom lenses, 100s, 200s. We're not really looking for that unless you just plan on shooting the moon really. But again, an 18-55 kit lens that can stop to 4.5 or even 5.6 Don't worry about it. Yeah.
It would be fine. Yeah, it would be fine. I'm using quite often. I'm using a 28 to 105 millimeter, and that's not a real fast lens. It's f3.5 to 5.6, and again, you don't really need anything super fast for this. So yeah, bring different lenses if you have them, and they don't have to be super expensive wide angles.
Night photography gear on a budget basically would work fine for this. Yeah. So, to recap, it's May 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's around the full moon. I think the full moon is actually on the 5th. It's going to be warm. We're going to be there with a maximum of 10 people. During the day, we're going to have some classroom sessions. Not mandatory. We know that people sometimes come to these that feel like they know a lot and they just want to have like the group shooting experience, but we definitely encourage you to come and hang out. We want you to. We've got some fun things planned. Also, we're going to have a good amount of time there. Midnight to 1 a.m. in that time frame, depending on the night, is how late we'll be able to be there. Again, not looking over your shoulder because we have full permissive access to this place, which again is a huge relief. Yeah, especially if you're going to hold a workshop. It's kind of important. If you see anybody with guns, run. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but we'll also be really accessible to you. We'll be wandering around, making sure that you're okay, and there'll be the system of communication, which we'll go over later, where it's really easy for you to ask for help.
Well, I do almost no shooting on these events because I want to make sure everybody is happy, and this isn't one of those situations where we just say, "Here's the location, have a great time, let us know when you're done." I don't run those kinds of events. I'm around as much as you want me to be, or I can also just back off too. But it's it's really important for me, and I know for Ken, to make sure that when you fly home, drive home, walk home, whatever it is you're going to do to get home, that you have shots that you're happy with, and you've left that experience with a great, just a good feeling. Especially if you've never been to a workshop before, man, that first workshop that I went to, and I just left on cloud nine. I met cool people. I was in a great place that I'd never seen before, and I learned a new skill. Win, win, win.
I mean, you make a lot of friends on these workshops, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get a few people that keep coming back. So that's always that's a very nice compliment when people come back. So I'm hoping that we'll see some familiar faces, but if not, that's great, because it is nice to meet new people. But it is always nice to watch everybody interact and kind of start ride sharing and let's get together for lunch. There's a lot of that happens, and you make friends, and that's.
I noticed that there's a lot of people collaborating on photos too.
Yeah,
which I
there's
love
a lot
to see.
of let's take this shot together. I'll go hold this light over here. You hold this light. Push the buttons. That's fun. Yeah. I love seeing that. Again, the safety part of it. Sometimes people come to workshops just because they love night photography, but they don't want to shoot alone. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is totally understandable.
We want you to feel like you're in a safe environment. This is a safe environment, and we'll have a good amount of people around. And you mentioned the communication things. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think I'm the only one who does this right now, but I issue radios to everybody. Sometimes out there, cell phones work depending on where you are. I have Verizon, and I know if I'm down near that barn that you shot, I don't get much of a signal, but if I work up the hill a little bit, it's okay. But that's just Verizon. I can't speak about anything else. But the radio thing is fun because you can say, hey, Tim, can you come over and help me out with this? And I'll be right there. You could also be courteous and say, if anybody wants to shoot the gas station, I'm all done shooting the gas station now. And so it's free. And that cuts down on a lot of people walking back and forth to try to get to a spot. And also, it's nice to just be able to know where your friend is logistically. Hey, I'm going to light up this space. Is anybody taking a shot? That's just a courtesy thing, but I find it's really helpful for that. Yeah.
That communication really helps. So yes. Tim brings quite a few radios, one for everyone. So yeah. Yeah, so they're easy to operate two-way radios.
Yeah, and we started, you and I and Mike and other people we've shot with, we've all started using business band radios because of the huge amount of benefit that we get out of it, you know. And you don't have to look at a screen, you know, to type out a message to somebody, so there's no blinding yourself with a screen light, which is nice. So we pretty much have it all covered. So the workshop page is linked in the description. It's on my site, capecodworkshops.com. You'll see it there along with all my Cape Cod related stuff. Of course, it is kind of weird to say Cape Cod Workshops and then be like, come to Nevada, shoot with me out there. I know that it's almost 7 months away at this point, a little less than 7 months away, but it comes pretty quickly. So, you know, don't wait too long if you're going to sign up for it. We're going to be staying in Boulder City, not far from there. It's about 30 minutes at a Best Western, where we've arranged a conference room and got some group rates on the hotel rooms themselves. And logistically, it's very easy to drive back and forth to our shoot location. So we're trying to keep everything just as simple as possible so you don't have to worry about thinking too much. I just want you to, no pun intended, focus on your photography. Yeah, so thanks for joining me, Ken. I appreciate it, and I look forward to doing some Nightaxian episodes with you soon. I know it's been a little while, so now that we've got through summer and all that, hopefully we can get some more on the channel here with Mike. Yeah.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, we'll be safe. Oh, and by the way, secret little piece of information here I'll just throw out. I'll be seeing Ken in about 2.5 weeks because we are flying to look at another place that may come to fruition sometime later next year, perhaps. And when we know more, stay tuned because we'll have lots to tell you about that. And there might be a third location.
There very well might be.
I don't know. So if you've got a Pentax and you want to travel, we're going to put you and that camera to work. The Nelson Ghost Town Night Photography Workshop is back May 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2023. We had a blast doing this in October of 2021. If you love old cars, buses, gas pumps, creepy dolls, old buildings, monster trucks, crashed airplanes, like that, all that stuff's there. We're going to shoot it under moonlit conditions, long exposures. We're going to do light painting. Going to be a ton of fun. This time around, I'm bringing in close personal friend and amazing photographer, Mr. Ken Lee. He's based out of California. He writes for Photo Focus magazine, and most importantly, above all else, he's just a heck of a nice guy. You're going to love him. This is open to 10 people. That's it. We don't want to have a ton of people in there because we don't want you spending a lot of time getting other photographers in your shots. We want you to have all the space you need to work with. CapeCodWorkshops.com for all the details and for sign up and to send me a message on any questions. Check it out. Hope you can join us. Thanks for watching.